As a student or caretaker, your students or charges will naturally decide to pursue certain ideas or actions in ignorance. While you cannot force them to grow and learn how you wish, you must guide them and nurture them until they are at a level to sustain themselves. Certain ideas, actions, or roles can and will overwhelm them and limit their growth. So you must restrict what they can do until they can manage it. In a garden, plants will try to flower and produce fruit or go to seed before they have the proper strength and energy to effectively do so, as they run on survival instincts and fear. You must guide them through this phase and remove those fears and limiting thoughts until they have growth enough to handle themselves and produce in abundance for them, from them. Right? So, what I'm saying with this is that um, I kind of basically just said it, but plants are not thinking about producing maximum fruit yield, right? Their main goal is just producing a yield in general, right? So when a plant grows, if they can produce any seeds and they're at a point where they're capable of producing any seeds at all, and they're concerned about, if they'll be able to produce more or not, they're going to automatically, put out flowers and basically start the process of creating, their seeds, basically. However, they're capable of doing more, and they're capable of doing more because you're there to nurture and guide and protect them, right? So you're there to make sure that the plants have the proper nutrients and are and have the proper structure in place so that they don't fall over or whatever, right? So you have the support there, you have the nutrients, and you have the I guess safe space to grow. So by maintaining this location of safety and also providing them with what they need to grow, as certain ideas come into their mind, you can be like, oh no, you're they say, oh, I'm not enough, I can't do anything, or I can't do that, right? You can come in and you pluck that and you say, oh, but you can do that, and I'll show you how, right? Like you're capable of more, you're capable of more, you're capable of more, right? And so at every point, these plants keep saying, this is all I got, I'm gonna flower now. And you basically come in and say, you can do more, right? Until they get to a point where they've grown enough where they're not going to just produce one fruit or one seed. They're going to produce multiple, right? They're going, like, I'm just thinking about from like my tomato plants. Rather than them just producing, one tomato, I'm gonna have potentially 20 tomatoes off of this one plant, right? Because I didn't let it flower right away. I prevented it from doing that so that it could get big enough that it can actually sustain more, right? And it can do more. And so I think that this is an important thing to realize when it comes to teaching and raising, children and things along these lines, because there will come times when certain ideas will come into people's minds, and it is your job to, show them or remind them that you know, these are bad ideas, these are harmful ideas, and that they're capable of more, and that um, they like they can grow larger, and when they do, they'll be able to do, so much more, right? They'll be able to um, spread themselves out a lot more than um, this initial limiting concept, right? Because potentially they'll try and produce seeds, and if they try and produce seeds too early, you know, they just don't have enough energy to effectively do it, and they make maybe, like looking at my tomato plants, maybe they make one tomato, if that, and maybe it doesn't even properly ripen, and it doesn't even get to full maturity, and the seeds are all, you know, not going to produce new tomato plants. And then, that's kind of a failure on the tomato plant, right? But at the end of the day, that's not the tomato plant's fault. The tomato plant is just trying to do its best to survive. And you need to show it that, it doesn't need to focus so much on survival. Survival is assured, because you're there to assist them until they can survive well enough on their own. And when that fear and stuff gets taken away, it opens up the realm of possibilities to a greater scope, so that they can try and achieve more, and they do achieve more as a result. And I feel like our current systems are not set up to properly nurture the next generation. It is very much focused on getting output. And so as soon as we can produce fruit, they tell us to do so. They say, it's your time to bloom, right? And then as soon as your single fruit is produced, all right, now you're done, and then they rip you up and throw you away. And it's all about maximum output, and they think that it's a lot more efficient to plant new plants and let them grow for a short amount of time, rather than planting plants and letting them grow for a longer time and getting more fruit, right? It doesn't logically make sense, right? In the time it takes you to grow 5 plants, this one plant will have grown and produced potentially twice as much, right? It just logically, it doesn't make sense, but that's how the world is running. And I feel like we need to address that. I feel like we need to fix our worldview here and fix our mindset, because it seems it's very focused on a certain outcome, but it's going about it in a very inefficient manner. But they're too stupid to realize how stupid it is. So, that's just my thoughts on it. Yeah. Peace out.